hột gà nướng, hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, mắm xào đây.
Thank you for listening to Season 7, 7 Million Bikes, a Vietnam podcast. I'm your host, Niall Mackay. For those of you that listen to the podcast regularly, you'll know that Adrian and I have been in Vietnam now since 2016, so we know how hard it can be to find English entertainment here and meet new friends. Through the podcast and our events, we're building a community of like-minded people so you can have fun, connect with others, and discover more of Vietnam. Become a member of the 7 Million Bikes community and you'll get free tickets to our events, free 7 Million Bikes face masks, episodes a day early, behind-the-scenes content, and invites to special events for community members. If you join the community before the end of September and live in Vietnam, you'll get a free 7 Million Bikes face mask sent to you straight away. The link is in the show description, so check it out and join today. Thank you so much to our existing community members. We look forward to seeing you again soon. This season, we've gifted sponsorship of a Vietnam podcast to two amazing charities close to our hearts, the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation in the north and Saigon Children's Charity in the south. Please check out the links in the description to learn more about these amazing organisations and donate if you can. Don't forget to follow 7 Million Bikes on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, even TikTok now. Enjoy the episode and thanks for listening.
Mắm xào đây.
Welcome to another episode of 7 Million Bikes, a Vietnam podcast. You're here with Niall Mackay, and my guest today, she is the founder of Easy English Vietnam and Easy Vietnamese, two language centers here in Saigon. She's also known as the seasonal host on the Best Ever Food Review Show. If you don't know that, make sure you check it out on YouTube. It has, I think now 6 million subscribers. She'll tell us that in a minute. And she has a background in digital marketing. So welcome to 7 Million Bikes, Thuyen Vo. How are you today?
Thank you. Great intro. I'm great.
I should have asked before we started, did I pronounce your name correctly? Because my Vietnamese is famously bad.
I say 90%.
Go on, you can tell me the correct pronunciation and I will still get it wrong, but please tell me.
I mean, you shouldn't feel bad because, Sonny on the show, he tried many times. So it's actually Thuyen.
Thuyen. Okay, I can get Thuyen.
Yeah.
Thuyen. That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And a lot of people mispronounce it as twin.
So tell me then, so you've got two language centers. So you teach English and you teach Vietnamese. So you teach English to Vietnamese students, obviously, or students who don't speak English, which could be, I guess, do you have many Korean students?
Oh, actually, that my center is Easy English Vietnam, right? And then for Easy Vietnamese, then actually my target student for Easy Vietnamese is not foreigners. They are Viet Kieus, like the one who was born abroad. Yeah, but they are Vietnamese, but they struggle so much. They grew up in, for example, America. I think that the market here for teaching Vietnamese to foreigners is a little small. So I don't really compete in that market anymore. Yeah. But I try to focus more on the Viet Kieus.
This has not been so tell us, how then do you teach Vietnamese to Viet Kieus? Not you personally, but how does your school teach it? Yeah,
so actually I opened Easy English Vietnam like 3.5 years ago. Easy Vietnamese I just opened last year because since I was on the show and then I got a lot of messages of viewers actually, and they asked me if that is something that I can make happen, like, if I can teach them Vietnamese, because every time they watch the videos, they say, oh, we love that and we feel connected to the country thanks to your videos. So I thought, well, that would be an interesting thing, but I don't have a background, so I actually have to went to the school to learn how to teach it, and then came back and then open Easy Vietnamese. Yeah, so it's not a very I would say, yeah, I would say it's a very random thing to open last year. Yeah, during the pandemic. But I'm very glad that I did that because there are so many, heartwarming stories when I started it too. Yeah, I love that.
That's awesome. You said there, you mentioned that you're not marketing to foreigners because the market is so small. I feel if you're marketing to Viet Kieus, that market is even smaller.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of centers target Viet Kieus, I think it's very, if you know that if you go on expat groups on Facebook and you see that people, they even want to teach for free. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I just feel like there's a lot of people, in Saigon has been doing this for a while, but I focus more on, I don't want to use the word trendy, but it's more updated kind of Vietnamese that you can use. For example, if you're in your 20s, yeah, then you would love to come back to Vietnam and, use a little more updated Vietnamese, right? Because a lot of people, the second generations in the US, they actually learn Vietnamese from their grandparents or their parents. They feel like they stuck in time, like in 1975, right? For me, I see it very clear that they struggle a lot, to get into the culture that is so new to them, even though they are Vietnamese. So yeah, I focus more on that. I think that is one of our niche.
Actually, it makes perfect sense because we've had a lot of Viet Kieus, Vietnamese overseas guests on the show. And it's something that's come up often about the language being frozen in time and learning that language. If you've learned Vietnamese from your grandparents who moved to America post-1975, you're learning a different language to the Vietnamese that's spoken now, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think sometimes that even if they learn with me and they come back and they talk to their parents, maybe their parents won't get it.
So I thought you went to Vietnam. What language are you speaking? We don't know this one. Does Vietnamese language update its vocabulary? And what I mean by that question is, so in Scotland, kind of native language is Gaelic, which is spoken in the far north of Scotland predominantly, not where I'm from in the big city, but my grandparents spoke it, and their family spoke it. And one thing, so when we last went back to Scotland, we went up to the far north, we went to the Isle of Skye, and we had a friend who was from up there and she spoke Gaelic. And she explained to us that the Gaelic language didn't update itself. So words like computer or internet didn't have a Gaelic version. So you would say a sentence, but then the word computer would be said in English, but with a Gaelic accent. And so I wondered, does Vietnam update its language? And I'm laughing as well because so just this weekend I was talking to a young Vietnamese person. She was a teaching assistant. She was 18 or 19. She'd just come back from studying in America. And she used the word simp, S-I-M-P. Now I'm showing my age. I had to ask, I was like, I don't know, what does that mean? And she had to explain what simp meant. And so I felt very, very old at that point. But in terms of this conversation, so would the word simp, would there be a Vietnamese equivalent for that?
Oh my God, this is hard. I totally understand what simp is, but oh my God, to translate it.
Okay, so for the other old people listening, as a young person who looks much younger than me, what does simp mean?
Oh, like in English?
Yeah, in English.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So basically, when you simp over somebody, it's like you're on over them. You're completely in love with them and crazy about them, and you would do anything, the craziest thing, idolize somebody.
So it's a verb.
So that, like simping. You're simping. You're super thirsty about somebody. And I actually learned this over TikTok. I tried to update myself. Yeah. So I went on TikTok. I was like, oh, you're simping. I'm like, okay. And I see it a lot on YouTube, right. On my videos. And then people be like, oh my God, Thuyen, like, I love you. And then somebody like, oh, stop simping. So that's how I learned that.
Because people said in the videos that you were in saying they were simping on you.
yeah, like people literally like writing, "Oh my god, I miss you," and I don't even know who that is. Like they're just like, "Oh, you're the best," and I'm like, "Oh, am
My
I?"
God.
But yeah, it was so interesting over the internet.
TikTok is the way to learn about what the young kids are talking about. It is so funny. So like you just said, did you just say this simp means you're super thirsty?
I
So
mean,
again,
like, you're on over
yeah,
it.
I mean, that's a new phrase. I think I had to look that up or I had to guess the meaning from context like a couple of years ago, heard that used. And it's, what does that mean? You're like, oh, right. Oh, okay, I get it. It's like these new phrases that pop up. And then I use Reddit. I've learned a lot of kind of things from Reddit over the years. And I've definitely, I can't remember, think of an example, but I've definitely had to Google stuff to be like, what does that even mean? And then you find out the meaning, and then I'll say it or I'll know what it means, and my wife will be like, "How do you know what that means?" And I'll be like, "I had to Google it." Like, it's so crazy, these terms. So to go back then, but is there a Vietnamese equivalent? How would you say simp in Vietnamese?
I can explain it, but I don't know if there's a word. Like I literally need to Google that myself. Yeah, but that struggle, right? Like when even like now I'm learning German too, and they have like those words that they connect together and become one word. And I really don't know how to explain that. It's like you need like 3 lines to really explaining a word. And then so I don't know. To ask me right now on the spot, it's
You think about it, get back to it. But yeah, I forgot about that one actually. I mean, I remember, when you first come here and you see the translations and how many more words are used in Vietnamese. Like I remember one time at the gym, there was a sign on the bench and it just said, "Don't sit here because it's broken." So like one line in English. And then there was a paragraph underneath in Vietnamese. And I was like, how does that take a paragraph to say don't?
I mean, but like that's why languages kind of reflect on the cultures too. Like I think that English is very logical. German is even more logical. And Vietnamese is like, I don't know, like we love to describe things. I think so, yeah. And it is really show, and also like all of the crazy thing about being older, being a girl, a guy, like. So yeah, I find that very interesting as a person who work in education and languages in general. Like it really reflects the culture, and I really believe that when you learn something new, like a new language, then you really have to like be immersed in the culture itself. Yeah. So that's the reason why I totally understand your point of translating, because it's gonna be long in Vietnamese. Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, so I've always been pretty terrible at languages. I struggle to even remember short phrases in any language. It just doesn't work in my brain. But I always thought that, you need to be immersed in a culture to learn the language. And it's clearly not true, because after 6 years in Vietnam, I still don't speak any Vietnamese. But that's also because we've talked about it to death, but there's so many people speak English here, so you're not really immersed in the culture. I'm sure if I had spent 6 years out in the Vietnamese countryside or out of a major city, then I would have absolutely picked up Vietnamese because I would have had to. But when you live in Saigon especially, then you're not really immersed in the culture like at all.
We'll be right back.
Join pilot and adventurer Fernando Pino as he takes you on journeys to discover exciting destinations across the UK and Europe. You'll fly with him to hidden gems and experience local culture, from bustling streets to serene hideaways and the best places to eat, sleep, and play. Travel Plans is more than a podcast. It's your ticket to exploring the world and its history with a friend. In this episode, we are flying to discover a beachside paradise perfect for the whole family. Discover golden sands, activities galore, and even free childcare so you get your own break too. Why am I still here?
Yeah, I mean, especially in D2, right? District 2.
Especially in District 2, yeah.
I don't feel like I'm in Vietnam. So I think that too, yeah. You need to get out of this bubble once in a while.
Well, so we lived in District 4 for about 2 years, and we loved it there because, again, it was that kind of authentic, I know that word is overused, but that the kind of authentic Vietnamese experience. Then we lived in Phu Nhan, which again was nice. But there's a lot of downfalls about living in those areas as well. You know, the noise, the traffic, the pollution, just to name a few. And so we were at the point where we just couldn't, we wouldn't still be in Vietnam if we still lived in those areas. Like, it was an unbelievable experience. Like, I would never change it. And I know there are lots of people who come to Vietnam, or Saigon, sorry, and just move straight to District 2. And that's fine, because everyone has different situations. If your kids are going to school here, or that's just what you want, I don't judge you for that. But you will miss out. Like, we lived in, like, you know, tiny little street, a little apartment down in D4, where D4 is like a completely different kettle of fish. Phu Nhan was like super Vietnamese neighborhood, but you could tell it was wealthier than District 4, which is one of the poorest districts. And so you started to see, like, I know no culture is a monoculture, right? But you start to be like, oh yeah, because when you first move here, it's just all Vietnam. Then you're like, it's all Saigon. But then the longer you're here, you're like, oh no, this is D4. Like, D4 is different. Then we went to Phu Nhan. It's like, oh yeah, it's still Vietnamese people, but these Vietnamese people have more money, and that's visible. Just like in any city in the world, you could go to, I know places in Glasgow, you could go to a neighborhood in Glasgow and you'd be like, oh yeah, the people are poor here. Then you go to another neighborhood just a few miles away and it's like, oh wow, these people have money. So we had an amazing experience of that. We lived in D7 for a little bit. But once we made that decision to stay in Vietnam longer term, we decided to move to Thao Dien. And so it's given me one of my best jokes, though, because what this joke, I haven't told this for a while, because like everything, like right now we're doing a conversation on Zoom, so we can't do any comedy shows. And so the comedy shows that we've been doing one a week online, of course, and we have people from all over the world joining, from Malaysia, Taiwan, the UK, the US. So half of my jokes I can't use because they're very Vietnam or Saigon specific jokes that these people would just not get. So this one I haven't actually used in ages, but the joke goes, a few years ago, I got sick of living in Vietnam. I was over it. I couldn't stand it anymore. So I decided to leave Vietnam and I moved to Thao Dien.
That's a funny joke. But it's very accurate though. Yeah, I totally get that. It's a different, to be honest with you, yeah, I confess I've been in Saigon for 10 years as well. But yeah, I don't really get out of the bubble. I only been around apartment buildings. I never really get out in a real house, in a real neighborhood. Yeah.
And I used to judge people that lived in the bubble and things like that. And now I am a full bubble wanker. I love it here. But the thing is, wherever you live, you don't really leave very often. When I lived in D4, spent most of my time in D4. When I lived in Phu Nhan, I spent most of my time in Phu Nhan. Well, the thing was, when we lived in Phu Nhan, we started coming to District 2 more and more. So it was like, well, let's just move there because we're traveling here so much. But so I used to judge people that lived here, and now I'm one of those people, and I stick up for them and defend them, because it's definitely like, you know, it is what it is. And it's one of the things for me when we lived in District 4, well, you know what Vietnam's like. There's so many schools, so many government primary schools, because there's so many school children in Vietnam. It's such a young population. So you can't go more than 200 meters without coming across another school, right? So both apartments that we lived in separate parts of District 4, both had, and you know what it's like with a Vietnamese primary school, 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, the loudspeaker comes on, everyone's chanting, yelling. So every morning we were getting woken up at like 6:30 a.m. from the school. Then during the day, the mobile phone shop underneath our building would have a loudspeaker on, pumping out dance tunes like Vina House. I had to go down and be like, can you turn this speaker off? It was the same tune on repeat all day. And they were like, oh, no, but it's a promotion. I was like, I don't care if it's a promotion. I'm like upstairs, like I live here. Then you get at nighttime, then it gets to like 11 o'clock. You've got the guys on the street singing karaoke with a loudspeaker. So there's all these things that, you know, and I hear some people try and make themselves sound really cool. They're like, oh yeah, no, I live in Vietnam. It's really cool. Yeah, no, it's such an experience. And you're like, yeah, it is an experience, but it's like sucks for a lot of the time, you know. And it's not just a foreign. I don't think that's just foreigners that say that. I spoke to plenty of Vietnamese people that hate karaoke at 11 p.m. and hate being woken up at 6 a.m. by the school kids. Like, I don't think that's, but maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Is that just me being a foreign wanker, or do Vietnamese people feel the same?
No, we feel the same, right? But I think that the older generation or the people, who live in like local area, that I think it just become the norms for them, because they just be like that for so many years. Yeah. For me, it's definitely like something crazy to hear something at 6:30. Yeah, but I think it becomes the norms for them. Yeah, and that's the reason why they don't really pay attention that much, even though it's not relaxing. No, it's not something you look forward to in the morning. No.
Well, one thing that we've noticed, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe this ties into what you just mentioned about the older generation, is that Vietnamese people just seem to have this incredible ability to drown out noise. They just don't hear it. They just drown out, like, you know what I mean? And maybe that's the older generation, because we'll hear things like that are just infuriating. This loudspeaker, for example, that drove me crazy. But I'm the only one that's being driven crazy here. Everyone else is just going about their day normally. And that's just a small example. I do feel as a Westerner, and I've lived in quiet places all my life. Like, I love the quiet. Like, I lived on a summer camp in the winter. It was 64 acres with 3 other people. So, and we've lived in New Zealand, and where I lived in Scotland is silent. So I'm used to silence, and I don't just mean quiet. I'm used to silence. So I am very irritable with noise, and I know that's my thing. But I do think that Vietnamese people have an incredible ability to just drown out all background noise and pay no attention to it.
I think so. Yeah, we grew up with really loud noises in general, and yeah, like your podcast name, 7 million bytes. We hear it every single day. Like, we get used to it. I think maybe we have like a shield kind of that we made for ourselves. Yeah, I think so. So we get used to that for sure. But I totally understand that. Yeah, like if you're in like quiet area, then you're like, this is nightmare. Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what it is. And we've guessed that the reason is, if you've grown up with that noise all the time, then it's just, you don't notice it. But I've got an interesting question you've made me think of. And I think in Vietnam right now, obviously, we're seeing a massive change, right? Economically, in society and everything. What do you think is do you think this right now is the biggest jump in terms of generation between like the younger Vietnamese people who are between 15 to 30 years old, and then between the generation after that?
Yes, for sure. Like, if we talk about history, right? Like, my parents would be like, that generation would be like still after the war, and they still having a lot of political changes in the government. Yeah. And for us, like, we grew up like very peacefully, and sometimes we take it for granted. But I think so. Like, I can see that. So I was born in 1995, right? Like, the last year of being a millennial, I've seen a big difference between me and the 1996, like the Gen Z. And then they so like smart and active, and they know on this crazy technology, and I don't know what's going on anymore. I think that the internet definitely make everything, it's a flat word. My student, even like, they in first grade, and they speak better English than most of the people that I know. It's crazy. It's changing. And yeah, I do believe that I'm in Saigon, the best city for startups. Yeah, as a startup owner myself, I think, wow, this is exciting, and it's never happened before. And even the government, they quite open. I know that a lot of people think like, oh, Vietnam is a communist country. What's going on? But I think that, yeah, the government is definitely aware, and we are quite open to, international investment, or even just the influence. Yeah, I do believe that it's a very exciting time, apart from Corona. Yeah, but in general, you get
that's a given.
Yeah.
That's a given, right? So how do you think then the older generation, then, do you think that's a massive clash between that older traditional generation, which, I see through my own eyes, as I guess you guys would call like the aunties and the uncles, they're still hanging out in their pajamas on the streets, have a very different view of life, especially the family structure. I know as a teacher, the students I've spoke to, who do you live with? And they'll describe, in a house, there'll be 3 generations in one house, which is completely normal. As you've mentioned, we now have apartment buildings all over Saigon. So that means that obviously people that are that millennial generation, like you mentioned, they're not staying at home anymore like traditionally, I would imagine. And they're now moving into apartment blocks, having a nuclear family. I hate that term, nuclear family, but you know what I mean? They're having 2 kids, 3 kids, husband and wife in an apartment, not living with the auntie, the uncle, the grandma, the grandparents, all of that. So I don't know much about that kind of clash of cultures. Is that a thing? And how does that play out, I guess, is my question.
Because I've told you that I've been in the bubbles for a long time. So I do believe that my circle is similar to me. And maybe that is the reason why that I have this perspective of things are changing. But I do believe that in some, district, Gavap or something a little further, I do believe that they still have this tradition, when we talk about it, the norms and living together and always in the community and not a lot of privacy. But I can tell that especially with middle class, and a little higher, then people, the younger kids, they are just like kids in America or Europe. I don't know that they very much, about themselves and have this self-development, but they don't to be out there. They want to stand out and not blend in the community so much. So I think it's changing, but in different area, then it would have different speed. For example, in D2, D1, right? And you see, wow, it's just like any cities in the world. But if you go back to my hometown, for example, we still, like some of my friends, they already have kids, 2 kids. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm trying to figure out my life. So, so I do believe that, it's happening, but the speeds kind of vary enormously. And I'm happy with my circle. I don't want to go back to that. I feel comfortable now.
That's a really interesting point. When I was asking that question there, I was more thinking about the clash of cultures between living in the same city, I guess. But now you've made me realize, because obviously I've traveled all over Vietnam, and as soon as you step out of Saigon, you don't even need to go far. It's a different world. There's no English signs. Most people don't speak English. You only need to go half an hour drive, if that, out of Saigon, and you're in a different world. And then, so what town are you from? Where are you from?
So I'm from Quảng Ngãi. Okay. And do you know where it is?
Probably not. I know the name. Both Saigon Children's Charity and Blue Dragon have emergency COVID appeals. The outbreak of the Delta variant is wreaking havoc on vulnerable communities across Vietnam. Families are struggling to survive. They need your help, especially impoverished children in lockdown areas. You can sponsor a COVID backpack now with Saigon Children's Charity, containing food staples, hygiene necessities, books and games to a child in COVID-affected areas in Vietnam, so that they know they are taken care of physically and mentally. Or in the north, you can donate an emergency food pack through Blue Dragon. It contains fruit and vegetables, rice and staples to keep children and families going. Food will be bought locally and will include a mix of fresh food and longer lasting items. For families who are hard to reach, your donation will provide a cash grant to buy food at the local market. The links to donate are in the description, and if you're in a position to, please donate whatever you can. Thanks.
So I'm from Quảng Ngãi. Okay. And do you know where it is?
Probably not. I know the name.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like 2 hours, 3 hours from Da Nang. Yeah, it's not a very touristy city. So a lot of people kind of pass by without stopping. But it's beautiful, and we're famous for the Lee Song
I was just
Island.
about to say, I do know Quang Nhai. We went to Lee Song Island right before lockdown. That was the last place we went to. We had an unbelievable time there. Yeah, we've still got black garlic that we're eating right now. It's my favorite thing in the world is black garlic. So good.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're famous for that island. Yeah. Not us, because I'm not from there, but we're in the province. Yeah. So famous for garlic and onions. Yeah.
No, when you said Quang Nhai and you saw me smile, I was like, I know it. I just couldn't remember how I knew it. Yes. That was the last place we went to, and it was unbelievable. It's really sad because with obviously COVID and the lockdowns and stuff. They're struggling more than ever right now, but it's beautiful, beautiful place. So hopefully more people can go there. So what brought you to Saigon then?
So I actually moved here when I was 15 for high school. Yeah, and it's a big move. A lot of people, Asian kids always stay with Asian parents, meet together always. But yeah, I decided to make that move because I know from a very young age that I want to be in a bigger city. I want to explore options. Yeah, so I moved here for high school and I've been here for like 10 years already.
So what made you then open up an English language school and a Vietnamese school? So what made you open up both of these schools?
So I actually didn't do anything related to education before this. Yes, but I have the background of digital. Yeah, after me and my mentor, we stopped doing Redbook. Is a mobile app the company we do together, and I was just like, oh, what do I do now? Like, I don't know. And then there are some people, they just kind of message me randomly. They'd be like, hey, how do you say that in English? They kind of trust me with English. And I'll be like, oh, okay. Like, I don't really teach, but I can show you a few things. And then my boyfriend at the time, like back then, he was just basically told me like, you know that you can actually make a business out of this, right? And then he literally sat down, and on the Excel sheet, and he was just doing some like really simple random calculation, and he's like, you can do this, like this is actually can be a business. And I'm like, okay, let's try. And then it's a crazy ride, and yeah, I ended up here now. And Easy Vietnamese, like I told you, just after I was on the show. And I believe that I was kind of naive back then, but it's helped, with entrepreneurship. It's really helped to be kind of naive and then just come in and then, just try. Yeah. And that's how I started. I do think that I have this influence of my mom. She's a teacher as well, but she teaches literature. My dad is a journalist. So I do believe that I'm in this environment, where I kind of have this, I tend to go into education, but I kind of refuse it for a while, kind of denied it and say, I don't really want to go in there. Yeah, but later I figured that I really love learning. And I think this is something that I want to do for a long time.
That's awesome. Do you think eventually Vietnam will become almost like the Philippines in terms of everyone can speak English as a second language?
Well, actually, the numbers are not saying that. So I check, and then we kind of in the bottom, of countries in Southeast Asia that actually speak English. I do believe back to my point of the income difference, the gap. And I see that very clear now in Vietnam. If you go to a rural area, it's sad. And people don't really get access to anything. Like education is like a luxury. I think that we need to work on that first, make education kind of accessible to everybody. And that is something that I believe in, and I'm trying to do that. Yeah, but I think it would take quite some time, to kind of balance that gap between rural area and then cities like in Saigon. You see that in Saigon, everybody kind of like very much about it, right? Speaking English is kind of cool. Yeah, it's a cool thing. And it shows how smart you are, which I don't believe that. But a lot of my students, when they come in, they have this kind of like, don't feel so confident. They have this insecurity that they think that if they don't speak English well, that they kind of hide everything, they hide everyone. And yeah, so I think so. I think the numbers are not saying that we're catching up. I hope so, but I have hopes, but I think it would take quite some time.
And do you think, again, that's going to be something else that is unequal, you can mention? So the people with money, the people who are wealthier, their children especially, and which is going to be like those people tend to live in the big cities. There will be more bilingual people in the big cities. And I can see that happening already, which is then, as we mentioned, as soon as you go out of those cities, then it just drops to almost zero, right?
Yeah. And I think, Vietnam, like in South Asia, we're close to, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, right? And you can see that on those countries, they are kind of multicultural. yeah, the Indians and the Chinese, yeah, and the Malays all together. In Vietnam, we don't usually see that. We only see Vietnamese. And that is something that I encourage, my students or people that I know to travel, just because you would have a different view, and then you would have this motivation to be bilingual or to kind of discover different culture and not be so judgmental in general. Yeah. So yeah, I think Vietnamese people are very friendly, but we kind of sometimes quite judgmental towards different races. And I hope that I think that the younger generation, not so much. Yeah. But yeah, the older generation, they need a little bit of time. Yeah. And thanks to the internet and everything, I think it's getting better. Smaller. Yeah. But yeah, I think so. I think a lot about geographic situation as well. Yeah. We don't really see different kind of people that much. Yeah. If you come back to my hometown, people will be like, wow, so white, so hairy. But yeah, it's purely curiosity. Yeah, like they don't mean anything, but it's just like, wow, something so new. And they assume that you would have a totally different lifestyle, and yeah, everything's different. They don't see you as a human being. They see you as something different. So I mean, no. Yeah. At the end, like we all humans, yeah. And yeah, and I think that it has a lot to do with education. Yeah. Like the knowledge that you gain and the experience. Yeah.
And it's interesting what you say about like Malaysia, for example. You have Chinese, Malaysian, Indian, Malaysians, and you have different melting pots of cultures, right? And I guess even growing up, I've talked about this to my wife, like even growing up in the UK or in Scotland, we would learn about America being like the melting pot or a mosaic, because it's all these different cultures. And that's what kind of made America, and still makes America's story, so amazing, so great, and almost unique and different, because it's all these people from all over the world came to live in this one place. And so you have this melting pot of cultures. And so Vietnam is all on the other end of that scale, though, where it's a monoculture almost, right? And I know there's nuances, and I think there's over 200 different kind of ethnicities, right, in Vietnam. But it's still pretty much all the same, right? But the funny thing is, you say about Vietnamese are judgmental against other cultures or whatnot. But I mean, I know from experience that the North and the South obviously have their issues. Then the central areas in the South don't exactly get on too well. And I think it's pretty similar with the central areas and the North. So even though it is all one big kind of monoculture, to be a very general overview, but there's definitely still some factions within that, isn't there?
For sure. And yeah, I think I don't care so much. Yeah, but because we had this war, and then we kind of be separated, right? At the North and the South, and yeah, and it's kind of sensitive, like a very sensitive topic. And I know a lot of people, they don't talk about it, but they just silently. Yeah, and yeah, but I think that I do believe that good and bad peoples are everywhere. Yeah. And I do believe that you really need to know somebody. Just talk to them. But there's one thing that I think is true, is stereotype. It's true. Like the stereotype. Yeah. Like you
yeah,
right. Yeah, you say a stereotype, yeah, but like kind of true. But I think we need to kind of just laugh it up, and then just kind of look at that in a funny way, and then try to get better in some ways. Yeah. But because I'm from the central, and yeah, we definitely have some stereotypes. Yeah. And we tend to move to the South more, because we believe that people here are like friendlier or, open to new businesses. So yeah. And even Northern people move here too. So I think that they are very much, we are all very well aware of that fact, but it will take some time to kind of even it out, or maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe what makes it, so different. Yeah, and so like various into our culture. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a good thing. What do you think?
One of the things that I find the funniest is, so obviously, as you will know, that a lot of foreigners think that they get ripped off on maybe even a small level. They get given the foreigner price, which is maybe a little bit more expensive or whatnot. But what I've been told by Vietnamese friends is that Vietnamese rip other Vietnamese off more than a foreigner gets ripped off. And so, for example, if you're laughing because you know this is true, and my friend has told me this, if she goes to Hanoi and they can hear her accent, which is obviously completely different, so immediately they know she's from Saigon, the price will double immediately.
True. Yeah, it happens. It happens to me as well. But I don't take it very much personal. I think again, they just need to know what's going on, you know? They just need to get to know each other. And I think that as a person from the Central, I don't bring that into, you know, I don't really think about it on a daily basis. I think it's, maybe you just meet a very bad person. Yeah, and I think it happened everywhere. Even if I go shopping here, then sometimes I get the same situation. So I try to be open-minded about it. I also know a lot of great Northern people. So you know what I mean? I think that it's just something, it will be better. You just need to be cautious, you know, anywhere in the world, to be honest. Yeah, if I travel somewhere new, I would just be, I don't know, try to protect myself. But I don't take it personal as something only Northerner or only Southerner would do, you know? Yeah, I think it just only create a little more kind of division for us. Yeah, so I would just kind of, you know, just kind of yeah, and don't really think too much about it.
It does make me laugh when I hear foreigners complain about being ripped off, and I'm like, it's not just because you're a foreigner. Like, it's not like, don't take it personal, like you said. It's not. One thing, so we haven't talked about it yet. I mentioned in the beginning, you were a seasonal host on the best ever food review shows. Now, so some people who will be listening will know exactly what that is, and some people will have no idea. Tell us, what is the best ever food review show and how did you get involved?
Yes, so exciting. So Best Ever Food Review Show is a food review channel. But what makes it different, I think, is the quality. Like, it's really crazy quality. It's not something that is like a vlogging or something. This is like a real production thing. Yeah, like I've seen the team in it, crazy. And they review food. So what they want to try to do is like tell story through food. So it would be like on over the world. And because of COVID, that we've been stuck here for like 2 years and the content is only in Vietnam. And that's how I get involved, actually. Yeah. And now I think they reached 7 million
Wow.
subscribers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's like, right. And then I think it's like one of the biggest food review channels on YouTube. And I feel incredibly lucky to get involved. So me and Sonny, the channel owner, we have a mutual friends. And then one day the friend just kind of texts me and my friend is looking for somebody who can eat and then react. Like, do you want to get involved? I'm like, okay, it sounds fun. And I have no like prior experience, you know. So I was just like, him come in and then I'm like, okay, how hard can it be? And the coolest thing is Sonny actually gave me my own segment called the $10 dining. And he gave me $10 and I have to figure out 3 meals for the day. Yeah. And I hosted that alone. Yeah. So it's a really, really cool thing to
That would be
do.
so easy. Yeah. Breakfast, come tam, lunch, come tam, dinner, come tam, done. Less than 100,000 dong. I'll have that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
We got a lot of comments about that too. They say, "Oh, $10 is easy in Vietnam." I'm like, "You're right. You're kind of right."
But you can still get so much good food out of it to make a good episode, right? And it's if you want to get some different food. Not all food is super cheap, you know. If you want to, you can't really eat pho for 5 episodes, you know.
Yeah, true. And I'm lucky though because the producer, they are so good. Yeah, and I don't know if you interviewed some of them, but they're amazing. No. Like, yeah, the producer was amazing.
Oh, so Liz was meant to be on the last season, But as you mentioned, so the team, I don't know if you did mention actually, so the team from the Best of a Food Review Show have moved over to the US because we're in a lockdown right now in Saigon. And so obviously can't do any food reviews if there's no food to review. So they've relocated to the US. So Liz didn't come on, and maybe we'll try and get her back on when they come back, or if they come back, which they hopefully will. I've spoke to Sunny about coming on, and again, just so busy with everything. I actually randomly met Sunny in a restaurant. He had a new dog, and we have a dog, and we got chatting. And then this is actually one of these crazy stories. We were sitting, my wife and I and our dog, Sunday afternoon, having an afternoon drink. And I text Liz, and I'd already been talking to Liz about Sunny potentially coming on. And she's like, yeah, we'll try and find a time. He's busy and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. And, I hadn't spoken to her for a while. So I just randomly flicked her a message and said, hey, any update? Is Sunny free anytime soon? And she hadn't even responded. And I promise you, about 60 seconds later, Sunny walked over to me with his dog and had a question about dogs. I can't remember what it was now. And so we had a conversation about dogs for a good few minutes. And then I was like, so I have to tell you something. I was like, I just messaged Liz about you just a minute ago. I was like, I'm Neil from 7 Million Bikes. And this is a really weird coincidence. I just messaged about you. And now we're having this conversation. So we've messaged back and forth a couple of times since then. Obviously, we won't be doing an interview anytime soon. But hopefully when the team comes back, we'll get him or Liz on the show as well. And then you were introduced to me through previous guest as well, Mika Chu, who is a mutual friend, and she has been amazing. Like, since she's been on, she's been so lovely. She's introduced me to other people. She's been so supportive with the show, and we still message each other like, hey, how you doing? And hopefully you're trying to help each other get through this tough time of lockdown. So thank you very much to Mika for introducing me to you. And
yes.
Then when she introduced you to me, then you were like, oh yeah, I listened to the show, which always blows me away. And I've said this before, and I tell people when I speak to them, even recently, a couple of people who I knew were like, oh yeah, listen. And I was like, wait, what? It's this strange thing that I just don't, even though I see the numbers, I just don't ever think that anyone listens. So because you just make it like we're doing it right now, and then you put it out, and then it's out there. So anytime when someone says, oh yeah, listen, I'm like, well, wait, what? So it was same when you said that as well. I was like, that's so cool. So I'll put you on the spot. What's your favorite episode?
Yeah, I actually listened to the one that Mika was on because, so I actually, how did I meet her? Oh, we met at the networking events of Savue. And I saw her on many TV shows, and and I was like, wow, she's so cute. And she can speak many languages, what I'm trying to do now. Yeah, so, and we live very close by as well. Yeah, so actually that we hang. And then, I listened to a few of yours, but I really like the one that she was on. Yeah, like you said, I love her. She is so fun to be around.
She's so lovely. So we'll finish up on that note, but we're going to finish with the same questions that I will be asking everyone at the end of season 7. And by the time this episode has gone to air and is out in the world, we'll have hit over 20,000 downloads total. In the podcast world, 20,000 downloads is like a massive achievement. So by this time, when this comes out, we'll be well past that. So that's very exciting. But so for seasons, thank you very much. Yeah. I've said it before. When I first started, I thought we'd have maybe 10 people listen, and it was just going to be a wee hobby. And now 7 Million Bikes is basically my full-time job now, which is awesome. And that's what I was going to say as well. Sunny's a massive inspiration because I saw kind of his story and how he just started with basically like just a dude doing some videos about food review. There's no big, you were mentioning about the production quality, which is ridiculously high, really well-made show. But when you watch the first videos that he did, it was just a guy reviewing some food. And so that really gives me a lot of inspiration because we just started off as like a little hobby. Even now, I mean, we're having to do it on Zoom. The productions, if anyone's listening, sorry, the sound probably isn't as good as it normally is because we're having to do it on the old Zoom. But That's an inspiration to see where you can get to. So he's obviously now 7 million subscribers and whatnot. I have 38 subscribers on YouTube right now, but you have to start somewhere, right? So
of course.
Everyone
to you.
starts at zero, right? All right. So the first question, as we kind of mentioned, we haven't talked about it too much because we don't want to dwell on the negativity that we're living through right now. But if you could get on a motorbike and drive anywhere right now, where would you go?
I don't want to disappoint you, but this is a very hypothetical question for me because I don't drive. But yeah, if I can actually do that in real life, then I would love to come back home.
No, but wait. You can get on the back. You can get on the back of a bike. And second of all, you can't go to Quang Nai on a bike. Not comfortably.
Yes, you can.
How long would that take?
You
How long would that take?
Like a day or two.
I mean, I guess you could if you had a really nice big bike, you made a day trip of. I mean more about like if you were to just jump on a little Honda Novo and you can go somewhere nearby. Where would you go to? Anywhere in Saigon or within, just think about like, because right now we can't go anywhere. So the kind of question is, if you could just go jump on a bike, get a grab, where would you go?
Oh, good question.
20,000 downloads, I told you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, because I haven't been out for so long.
Three months.
I have so many.
It's 3 months now.
Yeah, I have so many options that I want to do. But yeah, I would say like a river. Yeah, something like a river, or maybe like a really big park. Because you don't want to let me go home. So, yeah. Or
these are amazingly specific answers. This is like when you talk to one of your students. A river, the park. No, where would you go?
Or I can just want to go back to Salah. Yeah, I also have the apartment there, and I love.
Salah's very nice. Yeah, you got the big lotus flower.
Yeah.
Right?
So
is that Salah?
Yeah. The flower bridge. Yeah, and I think that it can sound crazy, but this is a luxury to us right now because we cannot go out.
So that was more the meaning of the question. We're stuck in lockdown. You can jump on a bike. Where would you go relatively nearby? Because right now we can't leave our apartment. No, I'm going to go to Quang Nai. But maybe I need to explain the question better next time. Right. Now, still on the topic of lockdown, what has been the most challenging thing about the past 3 months of lockdown for us? So right now we're at the end of August. By the time this comes out, we'll probably still be in lockdown. What's been the most challenging thing for you?
I think that I'm pretty good with day-to-day things, but I think what's really challenging for me is just how to look into the future, about when things are going to be normal again, because I see the cases are rising up in even the UK when they pass 70% of vaccination rate. So when is it going to be normal again? And every time I think about it, I'm just kind of depressed. So I try not to think about it. Yeah, I try to focus on the day-to-day thing more. Yeah,
I try not to answer these questions because I don't want to. If I answer them every time, then I'll be answering them 10 times for every episode. But in this case, my answer would be the same as yours. Day-to-day stuff's not too bad, but right now thinking about the future is really difficult. And anytime I do let myself think too far ahead, it's quite depressing and quite worrying. Because like you said as well, it's not just here, it's worldwide. So it's let's not think too much about the future. But on the flip side, what has been the best thing about lockdown for you?
Time for myself. I love that. Yeah, I think I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a very social person and I need that. I need to get out. I need to talk to people. But it's true that when you always spend time outside, then you don't really, go back and then really ask yourself questions and know who you really are. So yeah, during this time, I've been reading a lot of books and I've been doing a lot of healing. I know I sound one of those guru online. Go back inwards and meditate. Yeah, but that's what I do every day. And I think that I understand myself much more now. Yeah, I love this because I don't have FOMO anymore because everybody stayed home. So I can spend this time and then really think about what I'm gonna do, about my my job, about what I'm doing right now, and do I really want to do that and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think a great time for myself to think and not scared that everybody is leaving immediately. Everybody stay home.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. No FOMO. Because there's no one doing it.
Yeah,
No
no
FOMO. I
FOMO.
like that one. So what in Vietnam shocks you the most?
I've been thinking about these questions and I'd be like, hey, I'm Vietnamese, right? Things shouldn't shock me, but I think it's the ability to balance everything on a motorbike. You know
Of
that,
course.
right? I've seen that and it surprises me every time. How can you got the whole fridge or no 10 chicken and then a pig?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. They can balance anything on the motorbike, and they can ship to you within days. Oh God, this is crazy.
See,
yeah, the ability to balance things on a motorbike. My final answer.
You just said, how could I answer this as a Vietnamese? I totally knew you could have an answer for that. Of course, things would shock you even as a Vietnamese. So again, on the flip side, what pleasantly surprises you about Vietnam?
I think that the ability to just get through so much. I think Vietnamese people, I know that I complain sometimes about the fact that, oh, we are so much in the community and, my privacy but I think I just love that, how people can be in a community, and just be so nice and always share things, but they always think about, even I don't know my neighbors and I feel bad. I should know, And I love that about Vietnamese. We always, in this community and growing up as well. And I think that's the reason why that we've been through, 1,000 years of Chinese invaders and, and 100 years of France in America. And we still here, with the language and the people, even we so close to China, but we still Vietnamese, and I think that is what I love the most about Vietnamese. We are just so, what is that word?
Resilient?
Oh my God. Yes, I'm an English teacher. Please cover that.
That's okay.
And we just have this ability, to just get through things. And I'm so amazed. I always wonder if I'm my parents, in that position. I don't know if I can get through it. I'm so not ready for this. Yeah, but they did that. They go through war and they go through, all the changes, and they still here and they doing better than ever. So yeah, I love that about Vietnamese.
I love that answer. That's brilliant. That's a perfect way to finish up. So normally I would give my guests the opportunity to promote their Instagram or whatnot, but you don't need to promote it because you've already got 10,000 followers.
Yeah. So yeah, if you wanna, kind of have a conversation about education or entrepreneurship, please, just send me a message on Instagram at Thuyen Vo 1212. Yeah, because Thuyen Vo is already taken.
There's already 11 more of them
then,
if you're number 12.
Yeah, right. And then I hate to put 12. And then,
But if people do want to follow you, if they want to learn more about you or your schools, this is your chance. Tell them where to find that information.
Yes, since we live in Vietnam, I rely wholeheartedly on Facebook too. Yeah, you can follow Easy English Vietnam and Easy Vietnamese on Facebook and Instagram with the same handle. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this time because we've been in lockdown, and this talk is just so awesome. Yeah, and I can have this chance to share with everyone. I really want to promote learning. Yeah, I hope that everybody keep being curious and keep learning, and it will help you go very, very far.
Thank you so much, Thuyen. It's been amazing speaking to you. Thank you for listening as well. Stay safe, stay strong, and we will definitely all get through this eventually.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for making, the podcast so I can listen to you.
And now you can listen to your own episode. What an inception. Meta.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of 7 Million Bikes, a Vietnam podcast. We hope you enjoy hearing our guest stories. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the show and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Thank you so much to our producer, Lewis Wright, for making sure the show sounds as good as possible for you. And also a big thanks to the 7 Million Bikes community members and everyone who supports us. Don't forget, if you haven't already, you can join the community today. The link is in the description and you'll get free event tickets, a free 7 Million Bikes face mask and invites to special member events. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I'm still ashamed to say this, TikTok. Most of all, if you can, please donate to Saigon Children's Charity or Blue Dragon's Children Foundation's COVID Appeals. Remember, we have 6 seasons of stories to share with you, so check them out if you haven't already, and we hope you can listen to future episodes too, so you can laugh, connect, and discover. Cheers!
Hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, ớt xào đây. Ớt xào đây.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're like me, you may use your laptop at places where you have to use public Wi-Fi. This opens you up to digital snoopers. It's a massive problem. It can be your internet service provider, or you know who, looking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal trying to steal your bank passwords or credit card info, or even a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. These days, it is vital that you keep your data safe. NordVPN keeps all of these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites that are phishing for your data, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. And it's easy to use, even I could use it. I've actually been using NordVPN for years now here in Vietnam, and I'm excited to be an affiliate partner with them. I've used NordVPN to watch Netflix, BBC, Disney Plus with ease. And I also know that my information and data are safe from prying eyes, whoever they may be. Join now and you'll get 68% off and 3 months free when you go to my link, nordvpn.com/SMB. Just again, for those hard of hearing, nordvpn.com/SMB. The link is also in the show notes. I know nobody checks them out, but go check that out and you can get the link from wherever you're listening to this podcast. As an affiliate partner, it also means that I will get a small commission when you sign up, but at no extra cost to you. So not only will you be getting a great deal through 7 Million Bikes, you get a great VPN and you'll be supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast. Stay safe online and enjoy the shows you love. Any questions, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And thanks for listening to this show. Cheers.